Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another fun filled episode of The Randy Rex Show. Oh, it's so funny because coming into this recap of Survivor episode 9, there's just been a lot on my mind, not necessarily in a bad way. I've talked about being on the Ahead app, and it's really been helping me a lot. And I'm doing the anger and procrastination journeys right now. It's really is hitting in on a lot of key things that are real for me and have been issues for me to not procrastinate and to not be angry, not get angry. So I say all of that to say because my last recap for episode 8, literally, I think I put it out on the day of that episode 9 came out, which is not the right timing for me. That's like not my goal. And I guess it was that and like understanding not to just a certain thing about with me and how I would guilt myself, and I would basically just beat myself up for not hitting my goal. And this journey through the Ahead app has really made me see that in a way that really resonates with me, to where I feel like now it's something that I can work with, something that I can manage. So even, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, what is the story going to be for Survivor? Like, that's my whole goal in being on here talking about the show. I love this show, and I just want to be able to talk about it in a way that speaks to the admiration that I have for it. And so I'm thinking, what's the story here? Who are my characters? Who am I focusing on as I go through recapping the episode and going through the show? And I think to myself, that old Randy, the one that where that negativity will come in, like the devil on my shoulder, or how RuPaul would say the calls coming from inside the house. I would say, like, who are you? Like, you're not a storyteller. And that really hit me so hard, having that inner dialogue, because there's just that's just one example of how I have sabotaged myself. I hope that you all are enjoying this little show that I have going on, and whether it's for Survivor, for myself, or something else that I have done on this channel, I really appreciate it. And I hope truly and authentically, wholeheartedly, that you are also at that point of self-awareness, because I'm not saying I'm perfect or I'm better than anyone just because of this little moment I had, but I just I just hate the idea for someone else to beat themselves up the way that I have beat myself up. And, who's to say where my thing ranks on a scale? Who's to even say anything about a scale, or, have a say on that? I just hope that whatever it is, however you can for yourself, that you have that moment to where you can grant yourself some grace, and of course extend it to others. In this episode, the characters that I want to focus on are Kyle. I feel like even though Shaheen was had a big presence in this episode, it was really Kyle's episode. It's so interesting because sitting here talking it out as if I'm talking to another authentic fan, just like going off and enjoying myself, it really is making me wonder, with the way that the show is going and with this episode highlighting Kyle so much, like, what the heck is gonna happen with him? Like, I feel like he has such a clear cut, straight line to the finish to be the sole survivor to win. But see, and then this is the thing that is in the back of my head. I'm like, you can't always trust what you're seeing on the show. You never know what they're setting you up for. So it's just like, oh my god, are we gonna lose him? I can't fall in love with him and then lose him. But it's happening. I've already started to fall in love with him. This episode, he really did a lot of work to, I feel like, kind of solidify a position going forward. Yeah, I do want to talk about Survivor though. At the beginning of the episode, they have a funny segment where, they always show the tribe coming back from camp, and you see David go to Camilla and admit that he floated her name around before tribal to be voted out. And she tells us that, she's done with him and she thinks he's a complete idiot and he's forgetting he's on Survivor. You see her say that throughout the episode, like how he thinks that they're in the Olympic tryouts and he just wants all of the comp beasts, all of the physical people, all his little group to make it through to the end. Something that has been made clear to me rewatching this episode, reading my notes, is that more than individual players to highlight and tell their story, with Survivor, there's alliances. So there is a clear alliance that I saw. I mean, obviously, Jeff mentioned this is a season of duos, of pairs, and we see that as well. So if we're going to tell anybody's story, we should tell the story of this alliance with David, Mary, Eva, Joe, Shaheen, and Kyle. We really see the six break away. Throughout this whole episode, David talks about his concerns about Shaheen and Kyle, and rightly so he does. We see those cracks forming throughout this entire episode. Even at the beginning of the episode, we have this strong six waking up together, looking out at the beach, watching the sunrise come up, and it's Joe, Eva, Kyle, Mary, Shaheen, and David. And Eva is just talking about how she's so pumped for this next stage of the game. I'm assuming because, they have the numbers, they're a solid six, so they're going to dominate the rest of this game. And she is one of the more stronger people. Out of those six, she is one of the four strongest people. So even if it did get down to that six, she could kind of like comp beast out and make her way to the end. She has a great story. David is like, well, Mary really wants Camilla out. And Kyle tells us, like, okay, this dude really has a thing for Camilla. Like, he wants to get her out. He has a thing for me. He goes to Shaheen. He's like, this guy's trying to come for us by coming for Camilla. And these two are off in the jungle talking about this bonding. And the other people are talking about how they're gone. And David really clocks this. And this is how he kind of, the two separate from the four seemingly, but really it's like David and Mary are separating from the four. It's not the two that he thinks. Mary is telling Eva about how they are going to come for the four of them being her, Joe, Mary, and David. Becomes something where a narrative throughout the episode where Eva is just like, really, you see her playing the mediator, and it's just so interesting because she's like the youngest out of all of them, I'm pretty sure, and she's the one that's like, okay, no, like, everyone cool your jets, we have the numbers, we're an alliance, let's just trust each other. It's pretty funny. So wrapping up night 16, Eva does go in the middle of the night to go get her reward, and Shaheen notices. It's a really scary, haunting image because you see her go off, and all of a sudden there's a shadow of a man, there's a figure right behind her. But he wakes up Joe, and Joe's like, okay, whatever. He's like, I'm not worried about it. He tells us that that's my alliance member, my partner, my ride or die. I'm not worried about it. And, whatever, she comes back. She gets her reward. And when she gets there, it's basically like an extra vote. But they have 5 scrolls sprawled out. And there's like 2 at the bottom and 3 at the top. And she can risk her extra vote and pick one of the first 2 scrolls. So it's a 50-50 shot on one of them. Her extra vote turns into a safety without power. It does guarantee your safety. You get to leave tribal. You're not being voted out. Obviously, you don't get to partake in the tribal and, hey, who is voted out, but, you're still in the game. So, that is a bump up from just an extra vote. But if you get the other scroll, then you lose your extra vote and you get nothing. So she does decide to take the risk, and she gets the safety without power. But there are 3 more scrolls. She has the option to risk her safety without power yet again. She has the option, one of the 3 scrolls has a full-fledged idol in it. The other 2, I believe she lost her vote, or either she lost everything and then just didn't get anything. But she did not decide to take that risk, and she has a safety without power. So now not only does she have safety without power, but she has an idol. And that's dangerous, because the very next day she does go to Joe and Shaheen and tells them about her reward. And Shaheen tells us how she's a threat to win the game. He trusts her that she's telling him this, but he knows that she's a threat. So David tells us he feels uneasy about Kyle and Shaheen, so he goes to Joe about it. And this starts a whole little, bickering between the 2 of them. David's like, you went back on your word. We were supposed to vote out Camilla, and we ended up voting out Chrissy. And Joe's like, I didn't go back on my word. We all decided to change the vote. So even Joe tells us, he trusts Shaheen, Eva, and Kyle. David, he's not so sure about. There's a cute little moment where Mitch is teaching Star how to swim. Star doesn't know how to swim, and Mitch tells us he's trying to build a relationship with Star in this game. So we go to the challenge. It's a exciting challenge because potentially, if this comp beast, David, doesn't win, he could be voted out, which, all love to you, but for me and the game's sake, that would be ideal. I want to see him go next. And it looks like he's going to win because it comes down to him and Joe, but luckily Joe takes it. He gets the reward. He takes Mitch, Shaheen, and Eva back at camp. Kyle's talking about how it's sad to see David so disappointed for losing the challenge. David and Mary are talking about how they're certain it's going to be one of them that's going to go. There's a really sweet moment between Kyle and Joe. Kyle's trying to make some inroads with Joe, and he tells him a lot about his past, not just in a casual way. He brings up a lot of heavy stuff about how he had difficulty growing up, and he ended up getting incarcerated, but he was also going to law school at the same time. So he, no matter what his circumstance was, he did always persevere. At the same time, it was difficult for him to handle Joe or David the way that he had approached him earlier when Eva was trying to mend fences between the 2 of them when they were talking about the vote being changed from Camilla. That really brings Joe and Kyle closer together, and we get to know a little bit more about Kyle. So this episode is really giving us a lot of Kyle. Joe is kind of got it in his head, like maybe we should get David out. He goes to Eva to see where her head is at, and she tries to reassure him, like, we're fine, you know. She's still being like, let's just ride the numbers out, we have the numbers. And she tells us, like, why is everybody getting spooked by each other? Why can't we just get along and go through this game? David gets voted out. You know, he has a moment of shock. He just sits there. I don't even know he was staring at him. I'm thinking he was staring at Joe because that's the person he trusted the most.